Have you found yourself in the story yet? Are you the doctor? Are you Joshua? Are you Samuel? Because I'm about to introduce two more. Paul Revere and William Dawes. He said, get him. Bring him here. Don't get caught. Don't tell them anything that you've told me. Just tell them to come here now. 15 minutes later, there was a muffled knock on the door. Everything was quiet. The blinds were now closed. Every candle had been snuffed out in the doctor's house because he knew he was a watched man, and he also knew the British were coming. So Revere and Dawes, they both sat down in the parlor, and there was one candle burning in the room, and the doctor said, guys, the British ships, they're unloading them now. They're getting ready to march. Both of them knew immediately Concord was the destination. They didn't ask for an explanation. They didn't need to know. They knew, and they knew if it was true, the revolution would be over before it even began. He said, we have to tell the people in Concord and all the way up that it's happening tonight. They have to know tonight. But if we don't know how they're getting there. We don't know if they're going to go on the land. We don't know if they're going to take longboats to Concord. We have no idea. So we have to prepare for both ways. That's where you come in. The doctor first looked at Paul Revere, and he said, across the bay in Charlestown, there's a man named Larkin. And he looked at Paul Revere, and he said, do you know him? He said, I don't know him, but I know of him. I can find him. He said, great. He's got a black mare named Beauty. She's the fastest horse I know. Go find Larkin. He said, okay. Doctor said, you got to get over there as fast as you can. He's going to loan you the horse. I've already set it up. You ride north as fast as you can. There will be British patrols out, so you got to watch yourself. You're going to have to outrun them. Stop at all the farmhouses. Tell everybody. Make sure you give notice in Lexington. Then he paused. He said, I'm not sure if they're going to go by boat or if they're going to go by horse. So he looked back at Samuel and Joshua and said, I need a couple of lanterns. He said, I'll put one in the Old North Tower. One if by land, two if by sea. Paul Revere said, I got it. Then the doctor looked at the other guy, Dawes, and said, you got to get the strongest horse and go the opposite direction. Go as fast as you can and do exactly what I told Paul to do. They said, all right. Both Paul Revere and Dawes both knew that this could be the last day of their life, especially Paul Revere, because Paul Revere wasn't done yet. The last thing the doctor said was, don't tell anyone, don't even go home, don't tell your wives, don't say goodbye to your family. Get to the horses as fast as you can and don't stop until you're in Concord. So Paul Revere, kind of a stocky guy, kind of a short guy, he trotted through the little doorway in that little teeny colonial house, and then they started making their way through the streets. But remember, no one was supposed to be on the streets, and there were British everywhere. So it took them quite some time to get this little posse out. And they stopped and they listened. Remember, Boston was very quiet at night. You don't hear sirens. You don't hear televisions. You don't hear cars. Nothing. So they would creep from bush to bush. Well, they made a knock on another door. This time it was another Joshua. And Joshua said, who's there? He said, Paul. Joshua said, what are you doing? He opened up the door. Come in here. What are you doing? He said, I need your boat. He said, what do you mean you need my boat? I need your boat. I need it tonight. And I need another guy to help me row. I've got one guy with me. I need another guy to row. And we need your boat, and we need it now. Joshua didn't have to ask either. He said, is it what I think it is? Paul Revere said, yeah. So they got two people to row. They have the boat. They have Paul Revere. The horse awaits them. And they got to the boat, and they realized, my gosh, look at that that thing. It was this giant ship out in the middle of the water, and it was full of British. They were all on alert. They were ready to attack the next day. So the ship was all lit up, and remember, this is in a time when, we had big buildings down in Boston that were all lit up. So this thing was glowing, and it was a perfectly clear sky at night and a full moon. And Paul Revere and Joshua and Tom looked at each other and went, "You got to be kidding me, man. We got to go underneath the bow of that ship. They're going to see us, and they're going to kill us." And they talked about the only way they're going to be able to survive is if anybody spots them, they got to flip the boat over and all swim as fast as they can. Use the boat to be able to have some cover, and everybody dive down and swim as fast as you can. They all thought they were dead. And they got to the boat, and they got in, and the oar locks, those things that are, the little round things. They make noise when you're rowing, or I guess they do. I don't know. I wouldn't row. Why didn't they just take a cab or something like that? It's beyond me. But they got in and they started, and they noticed that the oar locks would make so much noise, and they're like, "We are dead." So Tom said, wait a minute, I got an idea. So he got out of the boat, and he went around the corner, and he went right down the street, and he picked up 3 little rocks, and he threw them up at a bedroom window. It was a girl that he knew. And she came, she said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We need something to keep our oar locks quiet." This really isn't the way to woo a woman. I don't know if that line has ever worked, even at this point. I don't know if she went, "Boy, you know how to sweet talk a woman, Tom." But apparently it did, because she threw down her underwear. I don't know why I didn't try that one. I don't know why I didn't just throw a rock at a woman at a window and say, "Hey, I need something to keep my oar locks quiet." But she threw down her underwear. And he took it, and he stuffed it in the oar locks, and it kept them quiet. And so they started to row across. They rowed, and they rowed. They got closer to the boat. They're about 50 feet away from the bow of the boat. They could hear the conversations on the boat. As they were about 50 yards from the boat, it was such a clear night and full moon. It was so bright that Paul Revere looked at the other two and said, "Guys, keep your head down. Do not let them see your face. Keep your head down. Because you put that big white face up there, you're going to be seen. Just let them see the hair on your head." As they got closer and closer, they noticed that maybe somebody else was helping them. Because on this clear night, one cloud appeared. And as they got closer to the boats, the cloud got closer to the moon, until that one cloud covered the moon entirely. And they slipped quietly and gently under the bow of that ship, right under the noses of the British. They made it to the other side of the back bay. They got out of the boat. They went to the gentleman who was there waiting for him, because Dr. Warren had set up the horse in advance, and Paul Revere said, "You got a really fast horse for me?" I'd rather have like a, Mustang or something. He had something with a little power under it. He had a horse. It was a fast one. He got on the back of that horse. He said, "I'll return it as fast as I can." He said, "There are British everywhere. Be careful." In the dead silence, they opened that barn door very quietly. Paul Revere didn't get very far away. He was out of eye shot, but not without earshot. And the 3 that were standing there at the barn, listening to the clip-clop of the horse, heard the cries from the British, "Stop or we'll shoot." The muskets went off, and the first cry was heard, "The British are coming." I'll let your kid's history teacher take it from there.